Hi you guys, it's Arielle. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today is Thursday, September 18th, and I'm going to be taking you with me to the Paris protests. Today's protest is the second one from the Bloquons Tout movement following the first set of protests on September 10th. Bloquons Tout translates to Let's Block Everything in English, and is a movement that formed in response to the budgetary measures that were announced this summer by Prime Minister François Bayrou. In an effort to recoup 43.8 billion euros of debt, Bayrou's budget proposal, which highlights the government's priorities for the year, was critiqued for primarily impacting the working class. In French, you might have heard Bayrou ask for des efforts importants mais supportables from the French people, which are substantial efforts but still bearable. Or the expression il faut serrer la ceinture, which is used to say that we have to cut back on spending or save money. What are these controversial measures? Well, one of Bayrou's suggestions was having a blank year for 2026, meaning that public spending in 2026 would be the exact same as in 2025 without taking into account inflation or other factors. This would mean that public services and the healthcare sector would suffer. For example, Bayrou suggested cutting the healthcare sector budget down from 10 billion to 5 billion, which is huge. That said, though, military spending would not be on the chopping block and actually was increased by 3.5 billion euros. Bayrou also wanted to cut public sector jobs. Just one example listed was that for every 3 public service workers that retire, only 2 would be replaced. And quite possibly the most controversial of Bayrou's suggestions was getting rid of 2 national holidays, Easter Monday and the 8th of May, which is Victory in Europe Day, and having the French people work more days of the year. Based on these measures, there was a lot of public outrage that recouping public debt falls almost entirely on the working class, avoiding any talk of the ultra-rich, for example. Now, you might already be aware, but François Bayrou is no longer the French Prime Minister. After a vote of no confidence by the National Assembly following his budgetary proposal, he resigned. This led to Macron selecting his 5th Prime Minister, Sébastien Lecornu. So that's just a little quick background on the movement and why people are protesting today. That said, I think there's a lot of nuance to the current political climate in France. Over the past couple years, as you might have seen on the news, there have been a significant amount of movements and protests for many different topics, like the cost of living, retirement, and now the new budget proposal. So while I wish I could pin the exact motivations for every person and every union protesting today, I think it's more of a snowball effect with many different issues having piled up. Now, the first protests on September 10th were smaller in scale because the unions were not officially participating, whereas today, 8 of the largest unions in France and the workers that they represent will be striking. The route for today's protest starts at Place de la Bastille and looped around Place de la République to get to Place de la Nation. It might be hard to tell from the clips, but because you're walking along long, thin boulevards with hundreds of thousands of people, you can quickly feel trapped or claustrophobic, and it's always a little jarring to see the groups of fully equipped CRS agents and police at every single crossroad. For the most part, the protest was peaceful, and having participated in all the protests following the retirement reform last year, I can tell you from experience that this one was certainly less violent. Last year, tensions with the CRS agents and the police were very high almost from the start, and there was a lot more damage done. It was only as we got closer to the end of the protest route that you could see a few fires and broken bus shelters. When I stepped to the side to film a clip of one of the fires, an older woman came up beside me and said, "Our hospitals are burning, our healthcare workers are burning, our schools are burning. What you're filming pales by comparison." Now, the routes of the protests always change, but last year there was another protest that ended at Place de la Nation, and that was the only time in my life that I've ever been tear gassed despite a very peaceful protest. The problem is that everyone walks down the last boulevard to get to Nation, and the CRS agents completely circle the square and gas the crowd at any sign of trouble. And because everyone is naturally arriving at this square, it's the end of the protest, troublemakers or not, almost everyone gets caught in the tear gas, and let me tell you, it stings like crazy. So as soon as I realized that we were almost at the end point and I could hear the cannon sounds that happen every time tear gas is launched, this is what it sounds like, by the way. And I could smell the tear gas. I turned around to try and find an exit from the protest that wasn't in the line of tear gas. I guess that's it for this mini report on the September 18th Paris protest. I hope it was interesting to see what these types of social movements look like in France. It's something that I admire about the culture, that such a large group of people can come together to stand for what they believe in. By the time I'm finished editing this video, it will certainly be very late, so bonsoir and see you soon.